Hey there, Corporate Misfits. Brittany Darrington here, and welcome to episode 34 of the Corporate Misfit podcast. I'm so excited for today's Friday feature because we are chatting with Becky Schoonover, and she's going to be sharing how she left her 9 to 5 to start her own business. After 15 years of working in school administration, Becky decided to leave it all behind to follow her soul calling. As a transformational life coach, she works with ambitious women who want to heal their emotional wounds so that they can ignite their potential and impact the world through their career and personal business. Let's get ready to dive right in and talk to Becky about how she left her 9 to 5 to do what it is that she loves.
You're listening to the Corporate Misfit podcast with Brittany Darrington, where female entrepreneurs can get powerful tips and advice on how to start, launch, and grow their business.
Becky, I am so excited to have you on the Corporate Misfit podcast today. And I'm so excited for our Corporate Misfits to learn how you left your 9 to 5 and started in Bloom Sacred Wisdom. So how did you get started and how did you leave your 9 to 5, Becky?
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this. I am passionate about especially women becoming entrepreneurs, and I left my 9 to 5 2 years ago. It's been full time.
Wow.
And I left a 25-year career before that. And I did prep ahead of time.
A lot of people don't.
This happen. It was not just a decision. I know some people say, oh, just decide and jump and the universe will support you. That is not at all how I did it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been an incredible ride.
Wow. Now, Becky, leaving a job that you worked at for 25 years,
Yes.
What was that like? And what fears did you feel when you decided to give your notice and leave?
Yeah. I mean, terrifying, of course. 25 years is a long time to have not only actual time invested, but emotional time. You're by that point very good at what you do. Usually I was very good at what I do. I was in education. I was a school administrator.
Wow.
And a national trainer. And I was awesome at my job, but I knew it was time to go for probably 5 years before I did. I was ready to make a change. So it was terrifying, but for me, the preparation time, making the decision not to jump without really understanding, I'd not had this kind of business clearly, but really trying to understand what being an entrepreneur would be like. What did I need to know? I mean, everything from finances to technology to social media. I really tried to prepare myself just by getting educated and talking to people and hiring coaches and mentors and all the people. And it really helped me feel when that time came to resign and leave that I was as ready as I could be. Right.
Oh,
and so I think that really helped me to feel confident in my decision and know I'm not going to have to worry about that stuff so much as now just being present and doing what I know I want to do.
I love that you said that, Becky, because so many new entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, they think that the only way to go out and start a business is to just quit your 9 to 5 and jump out there. And preparation is something that I preach and love to share. And I know there's some entrepreneurs who say, just go out there and figure it out. But I always think to myself, like, would you ever get in the car and just drive and not know where you're going and your destination? You know, that's just a waste of time. It's a waste of gas. I mean, so many things. And so I love that you were actually making a game plan and setting yourself up for where it is that you want to go. So you have that GPS to help you get to your destination.
Absolutely. And I think that really, if you do, I mean, I'm a big believer, you do you. So if it's somebody's choice to do that, fine. For me, I knew that if I did that, I was coming to the table, I was coming into my business with, quite honestly, some fear, the energy of fear, the energy of like, oh my God, I have to make money right now because I wasn't really ready. If you prepared yourself, you can feel a little safer in the process and let it unfold and know that you have some time, and versus bringing an energy of panic and concern to it, which isn't going to be helpful growing your business.
It will never serve anyone well, especially when you have that panic and that fear when you're trying to approach customers and clients.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh gosh. And leaving 25 years, did you have to do a detox? Were you like, okay, I need to take a moment after I leave and just detox from everything that I have been doing for the last 25 years?
I did. And I actually built that in to my business plan. I took a couple of months where I did exactly that. Not to get into my previous career too much, but I was in a pretty toxic situation at the end. But the staying the last 2 years was very intentional on my part to be prepared for the business.
I love that.
So I understood, I was dealing with a little bit of the yuck, but knowing that there was, a light at the end of the tunnel. But it was a detox from not only the 25-year career, but then some of that had been happening for me. So I did build in a little space just to kind of breathe, take some time. And so that I was really ready to come be present with and be ready to serve.
I love that, because a lot of us sometimes don't realize that regardless if what the situation may be, it could be toxic, it could be a lack of training or information or manager or whomever. What I find is that sometimes we have to just kind of decompress from everything we knew in the corporate world, because things in the entrepreneurial world are very different.
Completely.
You're the one running your accounting department, your marketing, your social media, anything and everything in your business in the beginning. And in a corporation, what a lot of people forget sometimes is that when you leave that, you had 20 people behind the scenes or 100 people behind the scenes helping you get your position and your role done. And when you start your own, you're kind of like, oh, I'm that person, that I'm the customer service person. I'm this, I'm that.
Troubleshooting everything. Yeah. And for me, coming out of a senior management position, beyond that, really, I ran schools, I ran multiple schools. I had hundreds of people that reported to me. And so I had a team. You're exactly right. And that was a huge adjustment for me, was, making the decisions about, was I going to hire people? Was it time? When do you do that? That was a huge, and I'm a big picture person. I'm a visionary, and those are not necessarily the tasks that I enjoy. And so I knew early on that part of my business plan would be to bring on a team. And that was, it may not be in the very beginning, and people go crazy and spend all this money hiring people and doing all these things, cart before the horse, And so, but I was very aware that was going to be part of my strategy.
Oh, that's excellent. Because what happens is sometimes we leave and we build our own business prisons, because we think to ourselves, we got this, we can do it on our own, but we don't sit and think about, who do I need to help me actually achieve this goal and succeed and get to where I want to go? It might not be now, but it could be later. And when you identify like the things that you don't necessarily enjoy or want to do every single day, then identifying that early on, so then you can hire when that time is right and outsource.
That's right.
Did you go through your skills and your abilities and say to yourself, okay, I really don't like doing this, but I was good at it in my job, but I don't like doing it per se. I'm going to outsource that when I can. How did you go about the whole outsourcing and hiring I like to call them success teams in the future, but how did you go about that?
That was probably one of the first things I did when I was even considering starting a business, was I really looked at my own skill sets with very honest eyes. What am I really great at? Not only what am I great at, but what do I love? What parts of it really light me up? And what parts are, could I do, but I don't love? What parts am I just not great at all? I was lucky in that I did have a reference point, because I knew within my team that it had existed previously what roles everybody played and why. And so that was absolutely part of my reflection process. And I would say anybody considering being an entrepreneur, look at yourself really honestly, and don't convince yourself that simply because you can do something that you must do it. Even if you do it for a little while, if this isn't something that really causes me to feel juicy, then when in the future can I outsource it? Right. So I
love
think it's
that.
incredibly important because, and the other thing is, where is my time best spent? And that's in the tasks that are ultimately going to create impact out in the world, because that's my priority, and bring money in.
Yes.
So I know I need to be present with my tribe. I need to be building presence. I need to be on video or on podcasts. Like my beingness is my business.
Mm-hmm.
So that I never lose sight of that, you know?
I love that, because a lot of people sometimes go into business and they are not clear-minded on how they're going to do it and what they actually want to do. And so sometimes they implement, especially sometimes leaving certain situations from their 9 to 5, they implement what they didn't like at their 9 to 5 into their business.
Yeah.
And so taking that time to really just identify, what is it that you even enjoy? How are you going to be impactful, and how are you going to get the most out of your time is so important for everyone to do, especially in the beginning stages, and even reevaluate if you find yourself doing the things you don't enjoy in your business.
Absolutely. I agree.
Now, did you create like a financial plan for yourself? Or were you already making money prior to you leaving your 9 to 5, and then you were able to replace your salary and quit from there?
I did a little of both.
Mm-hmm.
I understood what I really needed, because I was making a higher salary, obviously, in what I did. I know that's not everybody's situation when they decide to start their own business, but I had a significant amount that I needed to replace. So I knew and understood. Now my business right now looks vastly different than when I started, but in that moment, 2 years ago, when I really was ready to go full time, I knew what my business needed to do. I needed how many clients I needed, or how many programs, how many people, in order to make that happen. And I was making some money ahead of time. I did start very part-time as part of building my tribe, working with people in a very limited capacity. And so I was making a little bit of money and understood the potential from that. It was a great lesson in how much effort was required in getting those first clients.
Oh, that's good.
So that was super powerful for me to go, oh, okay. I really do have to, run a promo in my group, 7 times in a day versus 3 or whatever. So it was a good practice for me to really understand how many touches it was going to take to actually connect with people and then convert them into clients.
Ooh,
I hate the word convert, but you know what I'm saying.
I know, but it's so powerful that you actually said that, because what happens, Becky, is a lot of people will think that I'm going to start my product or launch my product or my service. And once I launch that, everyone and anyone who I believe is going to be my customer is going to buy from me.
Yes.
And I love that you touched on, I had to make my touch points in order for me to actually get my tribe into what I was providing value within, whether that be your product or your service. A lot of people forget about that. And so when you were kind of going through trial and error while you were doing this part-time, did you have a certain marketing platform that you used to help you create these touch points and get in front of your ideal customers?
Quite honestly, no. One of the things that had caused me to even consider having a business, let's say, 5 years before I left my career, was I was in search of a tribe. I really desired a place, particularly on Facebook. I was in a community where there weren't a lot of women of similar interests that had interests like mine. And so I created it. I just created a Facebook group like a million people do, right? In that was really birthed the idea of the business. So my group grew like crazy the first year. And through the interactions and through what I became even clearer about what I'm really great at and how I could serve women, was the business birthed. And my complete focus, quite honestly, for the first year was that Facebook group, which is not a strategy I would necessarily recommend for everybody. But it did help me to refine the fact that relationship for my particular business was everything. That my connection was everything, my integrity was everything, that my being really crystal clear about my boundaries was everything. So for me, it was the entire first year, which I did replace my salary within 10 months.
Wow.
With no Facebook ads, no funnel, no email. I did none of that. I
Wow.
just babied my group, my tribe, and touched them and loved them and nurtured them. And during that, though, came up with a longer strategy, a longer term strategy. So
that's amazing.
not
That's amazing.
necessarily what I would recommend. However, it worked for me.
That's amazing, because I think with what you just touched on was that you really cultivated and just kind of gave your tribe the love and the value, and you didn't focus on, okay, I'm going to try to be in 1,000 places at once. I'm going to focus on Facebook group, and I'm going to focus within my Facebook group and making sure that they're getting what they need in order to grow and be able to connect and build that relationship. I always tell people, you don't necessarily need to have 1 million people in your tribe or even thousands and thousands of people in your tribe. If you just had 10 really amazing people, or if you just had 100 amazing people who really are with you no matter what, they can help you to create that thriving business. But you have to identify who your tribe is. And that's exactly what you have done. You've identified who you wanted to work with. Now, oh, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. We'll jump back into it a bit.
I was going to say, how did you identify who your ideal customer was?
Perfect. Perfect. Exactly what I was going to talk about. Because I really felt like they were me. And maybe me a little while ago, which a lot of people talk about that, but I understood that that we, had a desire for connection, and that we were highly intelligent, highly ambitious, that we wanted our lives to be more expansive. Like we wanted it all. We want, incredible careers and being able to create wealth for ourselves. We wanted relationships that were supportive and passionate and fun. We wanted optimal health. Like I understood that she was me. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was I knew about myself. I really desire a high quality of engagement, not after small talk and all that. I didn't like a lot of the groups that had posts that just felt like they were sort of
Here you go, boom.
Yes. And so even in my group, and I purposefully keep my closed group to about 2,000 people, because that's how much I feel like I can really manage. And I call it, if people aren't engaged, they know it's like, okay, I love you, and I'm sending you on your way, bye. And my group maintains if I have about 2,000 people in my insights, I maintain about 1,500 considered engaged, which is absurd.
That's really high and amazing, because I think people forget you can have 1,000 or 25,000 or 50,000 people in your group, but if they're not engaged, then honestly, they're taking up space, and it's just numbers. It's like, it's vanity, but you're not actually going to see those results that you're seeking in your product or your service, because these people aren't engaged. I mean, just like an email list, right? Like if you have people not opening your email, I mean, eventually you got to say bye to them and let them go and be okay with that.
Absolutely. And you have to understand that for me, I consider, and I still consider, even as I'm scaling, that is like my little incubator space. Like that is where I am tending to and nourishing those relationships, knowing that those are going to be clients. And that's really, really important. If you're just focused on numbers out of vanity, you're going to be chasing that until the cows come home. You have to be willing to put your energy, and as an entrepreneur, you have to be really intentional about where you put your energy. And so for me, putting my energy there makes sense because, oh, guess what? Most of my clients come out of there. And even as I pull new in, they eventually becomes clients. It's been demonstrating itself time and time again to me. So I know that it works, at least for me.
I love this, because you're talking about the energy and where you choose to spend most of your time. A lot of new entrepreneurs, we sometimes get into the distraction mode. We don't know where to spend our time. We don't know what to focus on. How do you manage your time, and how do you know what you should be working on as an entrepreneur?
That was a little bit of a learning process for sure. And I've made a commitment. I work I don't work on the weekends. I'm not one of these entrepreneurs. It's after, I work half as much as I worked in my previous career and I make more.
Wow.
So I definitely, what ultimately has worked for me is sort of chunking my days. So Mondays I'll work on certain types of tasks. Wednesdays I'll do certain types of tasks. But along with what I was saying earlier, if I'm inspired and I need to get my group and do a live, I do it. Like I don't have a schedule, it's like, oh, but it's Wednesday. It's like, no, I'm in.
I'm in. Let's do this.
I feel like I can see some stuff's happening and I can feel that the group could really benefit from me talking about this. That's going to be my priority. My priority is always my presence first. And then the other tasks, I just bring those into the fold after that.
Yeah.
But chunking does help. I mean, just so you can think, okay, I can work on, some of my back end things or creating content or whatever works for you on this day, having that little bit of structure for me works, but not too much structure because that's just not how I roll.
Well, and being able to, I'm terrible with structure. Like my day yesterday was hilarious. I've been interviewing 52 women for the last 2 weeks or 1 week now, going on 2 weeks. And it's funny because people are like, why are you doing all your interviews right now? And I'm like, well, it's easy because then I could be done. And then I am like finished for the entire year of interviewing.
That's exactly right.
We're all about batching. But one of the things that really comes out, especially when you are kind of combining everything together, like in batches, you are able to stay focused and in tune with what it is that you're working on. So if you're in the creative mode and you're creating social media or creating graphics or things along those lines, then you can kind of stay in that mindset versus moving from email marketing to, okay, now I'm going to focus on this. Now I'm going to focus on that. It just basically keeps you from staying in the mindset of where it is that you're already working. So,
and it keeps you from feeling too, like there's no boundaries. Otherwise everything just leaks into one another. And if I'm running a program, like I'm running my group program right now, and that's obviously my number one priority is caring for that group and those women that are in there in that space. So that's not, that time when I'm in a program or working with high-end one-on-one clients, the way my batching looks is a little bit different. So being able to be flexible and understanding your business enough so that you can change things up when you need to, like you're doing this 2 weeks, every 2 weeks isn't like this, but this 2 weeks is for you, right? So, but you understand your business enough that you can change things to adapt to that. So that's why it's so important to really understand the moving parts of your business.
Absolutely. And how do you kind of tune out the noise of people giving you advice? Because this is actually really common. People will give you advice on what they think that you could do in your business or how you can scale it, or here, take this and then you can make $25,000 this month. So how do you handle all the advice or the know-it-all information that sometimes is thrown your way and can even be a distraction?
Some of that is just my personality. I think I have a very strong sense of self. And I do keep a team around me. I've always, I keep a coach and mentors and, different people I call it my toolbox of women that I really trust and who are magnificent at what they do and who'll call me on my crap if I need to, or will, brush off my knees when they need to. So I have people around me to do that. But at the very beginning, I do understand it's very easy to subscribe to the shiny object syndrome. And also, I think the thing that really stuck with me the most at the very beginning was I understood that when women were selling, let's say, a strategy or a template for a business, do these 5 things, make 25 grand. It probably did work for them. And that's because it's how they're wired. That is unique to them, their personality, their human design, how they are functioning in the world. It was perfect for them. Well, just think about that for a second, because are you exactly like them? Do you operate like them? Do you think like them? If you don't, it's going to be like wearing the wrong size shoes.
I agree.
Right? So I really, for me, if I paid attention to any of that, which I did very little of, quite honestly, but if I did, I just took the pieces that resonated with me and the rest we all have to understand there's no magic wand here.
Oh, no, not at all. I wish there
not.
were.
And so, be realistic. And some of the reason why people kind of fall into that is because they did leave their jobs to create a business and they are in panic mode. Or they were they were in a bad situation at their job. And so they left out of a reaction to what they didn't want anymore. And so now they're grasping at,
anything that can.
Anything. Yeah. So I think you just said it's part of it is really understanding who you are, how you work, and thinking, does that feel like something that's going to fit? If they're doing all these check boxes and whatever, like, I know that's not for me.
Absolutely. I know if so many people could see that there's just not a magic wand and realize that you have to put your own systems in place in order for you to get to where it is that you want to go. I think more people would actually make it over like the 18-month mark of being an entrepreneur. So many people fail at that phase or anywhere before 18 months because, again, trying to copy and do what everyone else is doing. And sometimes it just doesn't work for your business. And
you have to be willing. I mean, this is why I think planning ahead and having some space is helpful, because there are just some trials and errors in the process. You have to sort of work through some things. I've had some programs I thought was going to be like amazing, and I had 10 people, which, 10 people is great, but and then other things that I thought, it'll be fun. I'll have, 10 people. And then you have 50 people and you're like, wait a second.
There's
a little bit of a learning curve that's involved with all of that. But also I developed, this very successful business with like none of the stuff people say you have to have. I didn't have an email list because I don't like getting emails.
Yeah.
I didn't have a funnel because I believe in energy exchange. So I'm not like, I don't love giving away free stuff.
Yes.
So the things I knew that worked for me ultimately worked for me. I was true to that for myself.
Love that, because I again, if email marketing doesn't work, or if sales funnels don't work, or if that's something that you just don't even want to implement because you don't enjoy having that to you for yourself, then be okay with that and know that you don't have to have all these different things in order to be successful in your business.
And ultimately, I think I'll have it, but that's, the team will be doing that part of it perhaps. But even I've still resisted it. I still don't have an email list. I love
it.
I'm okay with that.
I love it. And it honestly saves you time and energy. I love it.
For sure. Absolutely. Yes.
Now, you are a very strong woman, and I love your energy because you're like, I'm willing to say no if I don't want to do something, or yes if I want to do it, or I'll implement it if I choose.
Yeah.
Did you have the support when you left your 9-to-5, and did you feel confident almost with what you were doing right away?
Yes.
That's amazing.
There's a couple of things I will say with my husband is like my biggest cheerleader, biggest supporter for sure. When I was sort of playing with the idea of doing this full time and was working with women in a limited capacity part time, I'll be honest, like I didn't really say what I was doing. I was like, I'm going to go in the office and whatever. Like he had zero clue until I was like, what's this money for? So it took me a little bit to feel comfortable saying I'm doing this and I'm actually really great at it. And I'm like ready to do this full time. What was funny about it, I had made up this whole big story about it in my mind. Like I built up all this fear around telling him and talking about it because, we relied on my income. And he was like, well, duh, of course. Like you would be great at that. That was the reaction. I was like, oh, I'd made up this whole story. And he was like, of course you should do it. So he's amazing at cheering me on, but he knows me well enough. He doesn't offer me any business advice, and he's very successful in his business, which is sales, technology sales. He steers clear of that part. But just like pretty much, you're amazing, go. And that's really all I need. I don't need a lot of, patting on the back and all that. And he knows that.
I love
that. It
that.
does help to have support.
Yes. And, sometimes too, what I found is like, who do you value receiving support from? And like, those are the people, then you can either have that talk with them or share with them what it is that you're looking to do or whatnot, and how they can even support you, versus trying to get support and acceptance from everyone, because not everyone's going to understand your entrepreneurial journey.
And if you don't have somebody that does support me, I'm just going to say this because I work with so many women, and this is not the case for everybody. There are many women who are trying to create a business who have a partner who doesn't support them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you should just give this up and go back to work. We're going to go broke. You know, I mean, they're getting all this pressure.
Absolutely.
This is why the toolbox is important. The toolbox of other people in your circle, whether it's a coach or a mentor or whoever those people are, that are there to support you and keep cheering you on.
Mm-hmm.
In spite of that, I know it's still challenging. I'm not discrediting that part of it, but you got to have somebody that's you're awesome and you need to keep doing this.
Absolutely.
Everybody needs that. So create it for yourself.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. I think people forget, like, if you are not receiving that from maybe your loved one, I know, like you mentioned, there's a lot of new female entrepreneurs who don't have the support of their spouse. Like, being able to say, okay, how do I find that support somewhere else in the meantime until I can get this person on board or get them excited about what I'm doing or whatever it may be. You got to figure out how you can still receive that, because it is very challenging, and we have our ups and downs when we go into entrepreneurship. There's some days where, I don't know about you, but I am like happy as can be. And then the next day I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? How am I doing this? And I am going into now almost like a decade of doing this stuff. And I'm like, why am I still having these days? Why does this still happen? But it's
because you're human.
Exactly. Human. And I think about it, I'm like, it's part of entrepreneurship, you know, and a lot of people don't realize the emotions that come into that. Now, I know you help a lot of women to really understand how they feel, their emotions and things like that. Mm-hmm. What is some advice that you would give to a new entrepreneur when it comes to emotional sides of things?
I would say exactly what you just talked about. Don't believe for a second that every day is going to be, you know, unicorns and roses. It's just not gonna happen. Be okay with feeling your feelings, but on those lower days, those days where you're like, what am I doing? What I always say is, don't set up your tent there. Mm-hmm. Like, be on down in the valley and then find your way out of it. Because when we have to, sometimes it's that beautiful balance of acknowledging the emotions, but then taking action. It's like, okay, I'm feeling like crap today. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the gym because I always feel better when I work out, or take a yoga class, or I'm just going to go for a walk outside, or whatever. Find your things that can help you to move through it. Acknowledge it, move through it, and you'll be good. It's when we start trying to avoid our feelings or suppress them or ignore them altogether, they're going to make themselves known. So don't do that strategy.
I love this because it is so true. I think a lot of people sometimes forget, like, if you avoid something or if you try to push it off, I mean, it will just eventually come back up, and it will come back in another form, in another way, over and over again until you actually address it.
Absolutely.
So a lot of new entrepreneurs have that fear in the very beginning, a fear of losing money, fear of failing, fear of, you know, just so many different things that come to mind when you think of, I'm starting a business. Mm-hmm. Do you have any strategies that you implement in your day to help overcome those fears? I know you mentioned like yoga and workout, but do you have anything specifically for just the fear side of things?
Yes. The first thing I would say to that, and it may be a little bit unconventional, but that's okay. That's how I roll, is fear has a hard time taking root when your basic needs are met. So if you are not offering yourself first, all of the basics of security, of, you know, making sure you're able to pay your bills on time, your body being healthy, getting enough sleep, being well hydrated, like tending to yourself is giving yourself evidence that you love yourself and that you are the priority in your life. That is going to translate into a reduction of fear. There's just something about that basic needs being met. I tell people all the time, if you don't have a strategy, if you're entering into a business, where you don't know within 4 weeks how you're going to pay your bills, it's never going to go anywhere.
Absolutely.
It's the root of all things. So that would be my first strategy, is making sure you have a plan to tend to your basic needs first. And then, coming up with whatever your daily practices are to help you stay focused and intentional and conscious and positive about what you're doing. So whether it's meditation for some people, or saying affirmations, or listening to some kind of video on YouTube that really inspires you every day, this is non-negotiable time. This is time I have to do this, to get myself in the mindset to do all that's going to be thrown at me today.
Absolutely.
So all of those things help sort of keep fear at bay, or at least keep it a little quieter.
Absolutely. Now, Becky, what is your favorite part about being an entrepreneur?
I love working with women. I love the literal part of what I do, the actual work itself. I love the flexibility. I mean, let's get real, to work less, have more time to, even as in the position I was in, if your child is sick, you got to call somebody. And that, leaving all of that stress behind of having to answer to somebody else, being able to craft my own days. And, if he's sick, we're out.
Stay at home.
So I love the flexibility of it. I love the impact of it, of what I do. And then I'm living what I'm here for. This is my mission, my calling, and I'm able to do that every day. And that's pretty incredible.
Well, I have enjoyed talking to you today, Becky. You have been such an inspiration, and I am so excited for so many of our women to learn from you and really get that confidence to go out there and start their own business and leave their 9-to-5. How can we stay in contact with you?
I'm on Facebook. I have a business page, which is Becky Schoonover Coaching. And where I primarily spend my time is my closed group, and that is Bold Awakened Woman. I am on Instagram and Twitter and all of the other places, but Facebook is where I spend most of my time.
Thank you again, Becky. I really appreciate your time and joining us on the Corporate Misfit podcast.
Thank you. It's so much fun to be with you.
If you've enjoyed today's episode of the Corporate Misfit podcast, we invite you to check out the Corporate Misfit Club. The Corporate Misfit Club is the essential resource for female entrepreneurs who are looking to start or grow a business they actually love. Whether you are a seasoned entrepreneur in your startup phase or simply thinking about taking the leap into entrepreneurship, we've got your back, girl. With our extensive course library, monthly training, exclusive members-only discount perks, and unlimited tools. We also have a supportive community of women where our members share stories, experiences, their wins, and business tips. The Corporate Misfit Club is the perfect place to be to start, launch, or grow a business. So check it out at corporatemisfitclub.com.